If you're looking to edit your food photography so they have that beautiful dark and moody feel, in this video, I'm going to share my top tips and tools to help you take your image from this to this in just a couple of adjustments. Hi, I'm Rachel Koronek, professional food photographer, helping you edit incredible photos that look good enough to eat. So here is our image, and I've done some basic color corrections. I've done some basic clarity adjustments. I've gone ahead and put a few little masks on here and there. But what we really want to focus on is how can we then take this image and turn it into something that is dark and moody. So I've been editing for a while that I have go-to tools, but what's more important is how you think about your edits. So when it comes to editing a dark photo, we want to make sure that we're doing edits to draw the eye. So this is where the idea of area of greatest contrast comes into play. We want to make sure, even though our photo is dark, that the hero food really stands out. So we'll be looking at vignettes, we'll be looking at shadows, and how can we make sure that we enhance details with some of our masks. The first adjustment that we're going to look at is a contrast adjustment. So this is going to help us with the idea of area of greatest contrast and help us push the viewer into the most important details. So with a contrast adjustment, you can use the contrast slider or a curve tool. I love to use the curve tool. So the first thing I'm going to do is just create a cloned variant so we can see how far we've come. So I like to use a curve tool when I'm adding contrast, and I'm just going to add a basic S curve. And this is where we're lightening our light tones and darkening our dark tones. So if we can see the difference between these two, you can just see we're adding a bit of contrast. We're really making that bulb pop. And that is what contrast helps us do. Now, we can be a little bit heavier handed when it comes to editing dark photos and adding a little bit more contrast. The second edit we'll do, and it works really well with dark photos, is I'm going to put a vignette on the image. So this is going to just darken the corners and the edges of our frame to really push the viewer into the bowl that we have here. So you'll see that this really simple adjustment has taken this image from maybe a little bit more mid-tone heavy to pushing us into the shadows and just creating something that's a little bit more moody. Now, this is a really simple adjustment that can really just add a lot of punch to your dark images. So let's quickly see how we've built upon this image. So here is where we started, then we added some contrast, then we added a vignette. When it comes to editing dark photos, we usually have a lot of beautiful shadows to play with. So I always recommend look at your shadows. Do they need to be enhanced? So do we need to deepen the shadows, or do we need to lighten them a little bit? So we're going to look at the next adjustment to be our shadows. So we've jumped into this one. I've just had to play around with, do we need to brighten, or do we need our shadows to be a little bit darker? Now, it might seem like a lot to put shadows across the entire image for something that is already dark. So just remember that you can always go back to any original edits. So I feel like we might want to darken our shadows a little bit and maybe just lift the vignette slightly. So we always want to make sure when we're editing that we're reassessing any edits that we've done to just make slight adjustments if we need. So let's just check in to see how far we've come. So here was our original image. Then we went and added contrast, we went and added a vignette, and then we went ahead and make some adjustments with the vignette and the shadow to look really dark. Now, maybe you're looking at this image and thinking, wow, it's actually a little bit dark. I can't see all the details in this image. So this is where our last adjustment comes into play. And this is where I'm going to use an adjustment brush to bring back and reveal any of those important textures, elements, ingredients, details, anything that we need to really make sure that we are making this image jump out at the page. So the idea is coming back to area of greatest contrast. We want to make sure that we are highlighting all of those beautiful details. So I'm going to jump into our layers here. I'm going to go and add a brush layer. And what I want to do is let's just grab our brush. And I'm going to bring out some of the shadows. So I'm going to bump up our shadows here, but also add a little bit of brightness and potentially a little bit of clarity. So now that I've got my brush and I've got my mask on, I'm definitely going to look at the bowl and I'm going to paint in some of these areas where I feel like they might be a little bit dark. some of the hero meatballs in the soup that we have here. And then also the beautiful folds in the linen, I think could use from a little bit of a brush as well. So let's go and turn that layer on and off. We can see that we're bringing back some of those details. We're really allowing the viewer to really get a sense and a taste of what's in that bowl. So you can go ahead and just play around with any adjustments that you think. I think the brush works really well because we can really be controlled and precise with where we want those edits to be adjusted. So let's take a look at where we started and where we ended up. So here was our image to start with. We went ahead and added contrast. Then we added a vignette. We adjusted the shadows in the vignettes, was really dark. And then our final adjustment was the adjustment brush to bring back some of those gorgeous details. If you're ready to learn more about editing, you want all the editing tips and tricks, make sure to check out the videos I have on this channel. And if you're ready to dive deeper into Capture One, make sure to check out my online masterclass, Capture One Magic. If you've got questions about anything from this video, make sure to drop a comment.